You were talking about how you were both the only two Filipino members of the HFPA. What does that mean for you two, being, proud Filipinos, of course? How does that feel?
It's a humbling experience because in our interviews, I always make it a point to say I'm from the Philippines, so that way we get to represent
Filipino pride.
Yes. Filipino pride, of course, and also now Janet is also the first Filipino member of the Hollywood Foreign Press. So it's Filipino pride. It's really humbling that, imagine when I came in, it was about 67, 68. For 67 years, wala silang member na Filipino. So akong naging unang mga member. So in a way, it's a point of pride for all of us. Kasi any ceiling that we break, it's a pride for all of us Filipinos all over the world.
Yeah, akong first Filipina journalist in the association. So I was also awarded recently by the Filipino Women's Network as one of the most influential Filipina. Isa yon sa reason kung bakit din na-awardan ako, because I was breaking barriers also for being the first Filipina journalist there in the Hollywood Foreign.
So speaking of celebrities, Tito Ruben, your book, My Filipino Connection, The Philippines in Hollywood, kind of chronicles these Filipino celebrities who've made it in Hollywood and beyond Hollywood. What kind of inspired you to put this collection of stories together?
Kasi we make it a point, Janet and I, to also spotlight Filipinos making it all over the world. Kasi hindi lang Hollywood, kundi parang it's our advocacy to also spotlight Filipinos making it all over the world. So, dun sa libro ko, I gathered all my previous articles and I also wrote new ones to spotlight my articles on Filipino talents all over the world, like Darren Criss, Vanessa Hudgens, and Hailey Steinfeld, and all this. Also Matthew Libatique, who's the cinematographer of Darren Aronofsky. Not many people know that the Oscar-nominated Black Swan was shot by this Filipino-American cinematographer, and he did Noah, the new movie of Darren. And he did a lot of stuff, and he's an award-winning too. The one that Justin Timberlake won in the recent MTV Awards, he shot that video.
And we also get excited when we go out and interview animators, Filipino animators, who are not really always highlighted in movies, but behind the scenes, they're Filipino animators. Like in Jonah Hex, the late Tony De Zuniga, who did the Jonah Hex animation, and it was filmed by Josh Brolin.
There's a Filipino animator at Pixar called Ronnie Del Carmen. He's co-directing a Pixar film, so I think that's a significant achievement for a Filipino to be co-directing a Pixar film.
And there are the Pixnoys. They call themselves Pixnoys in Pixar, who are
Pinoys
Filipinos
who
and
work
animators at Pixar.
Yeah.